Hi everyone, this is Flaxative,
NCT5.
and we're going to be talking about the items from this month's player-created item submission contest, Aloyzo's Arsenal number 2.
Cool.
We've got a bit of a better video this time around, I think, where I will be scrolling through the entries in this interface here. No more...
Through the forum.
Yeah, no more tabbing through forums. So... First, I'm going to talk about some items that weren't very good, and then we'll move into the items that I thought were all like pretty strong contenders.
Okay.
And again, like last time, skipping the sort of middle of the pack, like the ones that are fine and would be cool to have in the game, but didn't really stand out as much.
Okay.
Again, this isn't an attempt to give feedback on every submitted item, just the ones that
Stood out
Yeah, exactly.
in some way. Yeah.
That have like a design flaw or are really cool, that sort of thing. All right, so without further
First
ado,
item.
so we have stages and practically massive shield. What's wrong with this item, CT5?
My guess would be that little anvil strike there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. As I said about the antimatter shield last month, you don't really have attacks this big on a shield. It's kind of cute. Flavor-wise, I think this item works.
Hilarious
right?
idea. I love it. Yeah.
You,
Absolutely.
Like, when you block with it, you trip, you're slowed with it, and it's really big so you can hit someone with it.
Yeah.
But in terms of where we want different mechanics to be, we don't want anvil strikes to be on shields.
Fair enough.
So, that's going to be a recurring thing where if you put an 8 damage attack or more on a shield, I probably will not accept your item.
Still worth a laugh, though, so
Yeah.
I'm still a fan.
Yeah, to be clear, if you're not submitting to win, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not judging. All right, next up we have Trained Archery from Rebel. This item I actually think is very well designed.
Indeed.
I think the collection of cards makes it balanced.
Yep.
As interesting, as flavorful.
Yeah.
But there's a problem with it, which is short missile. I actually talked to John about this because this was on my short list. Before I talked to John, this was on my short list.
Cool.
Because it's such a tight design.
Yeah.
But he confirmed my fears, which were that we're not ready to have short missile on warriors, which makes this item unprintable currently, which is a little too bad, but kind of makes sense. Also, unclear if short missile is balanced at bronze. I mean, if you're doing damage at range with bronze, you've got
good
powerful
range.
spark, just 3 damage.
Yeah.
You've got cold snap, right?
Oh, that's 6 damage.
It's 4
Or
damage.
6 range.
It's 6
Sorry.
range, 4 damage. This is penetrating. You can put it on a warrior. Also, adding projectiles to the game right now would create a whole slew of weird interactions with a laser block.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could get the, like, charged laser barrage.
Oh, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That used
Which-
to happen, huh?
Yeah. That's an obstacle we can get over if we ever really want to include a projectile attack on a player item, but it's like dealing with that interaction isn't part of the work that I'm doing monthly for Aloyzo's Arsenal.
Okay.
So this item, for a couple reasons, will not make it into the game despite being a really sweet design.
Yeah. Well, this definitely pushes L's a little bit. It's like it's sort of like the that one dwarf skill that we'll probably be talking about. You're sort of crossing the boundaries, getting the reliable male from dwarf thing onto an
Yeah.
elf. I'm just imagining like an elf like jumping, leaping about the trees, but the guy with the reliable male just falls to the ground.
Yeah, there are 2 problems with this item. One is it's above the suggested level cap. It's a level 22 item. And the other is like CT5 said, reliable male doesn't really belong in an elf skill. Just because we're trying to put armor mostly on dwarves, mobility and reactions mostly on elves.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty item, and I'd like to run.
Oh yeah.
This is some power.
That's very
put that
powerful.
on an elf wizard.
Yeah. No. Don't put on an elf wizard.
No?
Okay, you have slippery, I guess, but reliable. I don't know. Yeah, it could be good. Okay, next.
So next we've got Exhausted Sprinter, which gives sprint team at tokenless.
Ah!
Admittedly, these two drawbacks are fairly drawbacky, but not really on a support priest.
Exactly. It's actually not really drawbacks. It's just
Right.
far to get you to your sprint team.
Yeah, and support priests are already the strongest humans in a way. Or they're the most pushed with the human skill set.
Yeah.
Sprint team is probably one of the strongest cards in the game.
Yep.
It's a card that often, when it comes up in the first or second round, decides the game.
Yep.
It can be unfun to play against.
Yep.
Which isn't to say we're not printing items with it, but we probably shouldn't print heavily pushed items with it.
Yeah.
And giving it tokenless, and like
with 2 trades.
One at tokenless, you only ever get one per item anyway,
yeah.
right? So this is just as good if you're looking for a sprint team as any of the major token options that have a sprint team.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit silly.
Most of the sprint team items are at minor for humans.
There's
Command and Bloody
skills.
Command.
Yep.
But
yeah, I'm just thinking about warrior helmets,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, sprint team I think should really cost at least a token to put in the deck. And also, we're trying to avoid super strong items that have 2 traits and are tokenless.
Yeah.
One thing John said to me when I was like, hey, how do you feel about the items this month? He said, make sure not to add too much card draw. So
yep.
You'll be hearing that a lot over the next few months, I'm sure. All right, moving on. The Ninja Tabi.
Pretty cool.
Very cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A very tight flavor item. All 3 cards are a good package combined.
Indeed. But
there's a problem. Depending on how you feel, maybe the Nimble Strike is a problem.
Yeah.
But I think the Smoke Bomb
is the bigger one.
Yeah. Because you can put 3 of these on a team with no wizards and have Smoke Bombs. Smoke Bomb lasts 2 rounds. And
huge AoE. It's an absolute nightmare for wizards.
Yeah. It wipes a volcano. It makes it impossible for wizards to target you. It's a strong card, and one of the things that makes Smoke Bomb balanced is that, you need to run a wizard to get it. The wizard running it ostensibly is affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also not so useful against some builds, right?
Yeah.
But having it as a one-of on each of your characters for a minor token, this item I think would warp the game a bit too much if we included it.
With 2 other pretty strong cards too.
Yeah, the other cards aren't bad. Like, this is a very strong item.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure I'm ready for Nimble Strike to be on a boot. But the Smoke Bomb is just so much more worrisome to me that that's what I'm focused on here, and that's why I think this item can't happen.
Cool.
Alright, next up I think we've got another boot, the Cockroach Souls.
Okay.
This item is not poorly designed, and it's not too bad, and it's not too good, and the main reason I'm talking about it is just because I want to give a shout out to Hop Solo for designing it. It's really cool. It won't go into the game for a couple reasons. One is Scuttle is grossly overvalued. So if we want to give players Scuttle, we should probably reduce its value to something like Bronze or Bronze Plus before putting it on player items.
Mm-hmm.
Adapted to Radiation also isn't balanced for player items. Keep in mind this isn't a trait.
Yes.
It doesn't replace itself.
Yes, that's very important.
It takes an action to play, and it doesn't replace itself. Preventing radiation damage is cool and all, but is this a bronze card? I don't know.
Hard
It's
to say.
really situational.
Very situational.
Really situational, and it has none of the upsides of what you might expect the card to do if you've only ever just attached it to someone, right? Again, it's not a trait, which is part of what makes this item fair. If it were a trait, it would be undervalued, probably.
Yep.
If it were a trait, it should probably be at least silver minus. And if it were a trait, this item would be really strong. As is, I think, is just fair, but it's not going to go in right now because the cards aren't properly valued. But I think it's a huge flavor win. It's one of my favorite items from this month's submissions in terms of the flavor.
Very cool. Sorcerer.
All right, now we're going to talk about two items that have drawbacks that aren't drawbacks on them.
Okay.
These are racial skills.
Okay.
This one has defensiveness, and next we have Scarponies with large weapon. Large weapon was recently changed to only affect melee attacks, which was a pretty important balance change.
Yes.
But what that means is that this defensiveness, it doesn't affect you if you don't have spells, and the large weapon doesn't affect you if you don't have melee attacks, right? One of the interesting things about racial skills is that you have to make some decision, like, do I put this on a warrior, a priest, or a wizard?
Yeah.
Some skills are better or worse on different classes, and that's interesting. When a skill is unplayable on a certain class, or is so much obviously stronger for another class, I think it's a bit of a design flaw. Like, it's not as interesting from a deck building standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And hoarding tactics with the one card, you could play around it on a wizard. It wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The subtle parry, I think, might be included to actually encourage considering using it on a wizard as an extra bit of defense.
You think?
Maybe. It could also just be to really push the human warrior.
I think it pushes the human warrior, because here's the thing. If you've got the subtle parry, you're probably running a wizard who wants to be up front, but then the defensiveness kicks in and punishes you for banking on the subtle parry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this really pushes primarily warriors and maybe also priests a little bit. I'm not opposed to a forward thinking on a tokenless skill, and the skill is actually quite good for warriors. But I think from a deck building design standpoint, it's not great. And then Scarponies here is a huge win for elf wizards. Elf wizards are unaffected by the large weapon. They get the unblockable control spell known as Violence.
Yep.
And all of this at tokenless.
Yeah.
I was sort of considering this item for the shortlist because while I don't love the design from a sort of principled standpoint where items should be interesting for deck building, it pushes elf wizards really hard, and elf wizards need pushes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That said, I think at the end of the day, it's just too obviously not a warrior weapon, and you can run it with arrogant armor.
Yeah.
Right? You can run it with arrogant armor. You can run it with genetic gene therapy or genetic engineering.
Yeah.
But it's really not, in my opinion, what a racial skill should be.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, both this and a Clothes' hoarding tactics, these two items, I'm not going to pick because they have these highly targeted drawbacks.
Right.
I remember when we did the human skill revamp back in November, we added Wimpy to racial skills for the first time. And we were like, oh, this only affects melee because it only reduced melee damage. And as part of that balance change, we made Wimpy affect magic attacks because we thought it wasn't that interesting to have a drawback that only affects some classes.
Okay.
So that's what this is. Not picking these two items. What do we have next?
Dubious Heritage. The dwarf skill I was talking about earlier. I laughed for a good at least 30 seconds straight seeing this.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Definite flavor win.
Yeah. That loner is such a nice touch.
Yeah.
Such a nice touch. There's nothing wrong with this item, in theory.
In theory.
Like, it's good flavor, it's
It's actually pretty strong. It's pretty strong.
3 cyclers.
It's pretty strong.
For a blue token. Which obviously exists on class skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I didn't think that the item that needed to be made this month was a dwarf skill with 3 cyclers. There's always Untrained Stoutness, I think, is one with 2 movables and trip.
Yeah.
So, not this month, but maybe another month. There's nothing wrong with the item. I think it's really cool and funny.
Yeah. And you're fine with the Elvish Insight on dwarf skill?
I think I'd be fine with it being the one exception.
Okay.
I don't think that players should feel like this is an encouragement to dump a ton of cross-race skills at Aloyzo's doorstep. That said, Card Hunter has a history of making exceptions in its design for especially cool or funny things. This is one of them. Unfortunately, you can be too funny, like Volza's submission, which we won't display here, but the boots with Shuffle, Shuffle, Mighty Spark.
That's right.
We can't do that. But this is more reasonable, I think. That said, again, not happening, but thanks for the laugh, Baylor.
Yeah.
And here we go into the items that I was considering.
Okay. Cool.
Both of these items have a lot of retreat, and I like retreat a lot.
Okay.
It's not a powerful card, but it's a fun card, and it can shake up a battlefield. I ran a lot of retreat in June when I had the stabby fly build.
That was
a lot of fun. I think the survival command is an example of a focused item that isn't too strong. Because retreat is a card that doesn't get you closer to winning a game.
Right.
I don't think there's any chance that 3 retreat will ever be a broken item. But it's cool. It lets you bank on drawing the retreat.
Yeah.
It's the kind of card you have to build around to get a lot of value out of, and I think that survival command is really cool. Similarly, disorganized retreat, on top of having a really flavorful drawback.
Yeah.
Because, drawbacks are best when they're flavorful, when it's not just, tack obvious maneuver onto everything to reduce its level.
Yeah.
But, trip, this is cool. And tokenless human skill with 2 retreats, I dig it. These items are both cool, and I considered both of them.
Yeah.
Also,
names help a lot, right? Disorganized retreat, the trip. I really like it.
Yeah, a good item name is likely to get you somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's see. Survival command, disorganized retreat. Also, player names, right? I just wanted to say soft tofu is that's a funny player name. Good job, tofu. There were a lot of human skills.
Indeed. These 2.
There were a lot of human skills that were all more or less okay in the submissions. Quiverall, I think, was resubmitting his previous round item, which I'm partial to. I think it's fair.
Absolutely.
Unsubtle is a cooler word than obvious for human skills.
It's more subtle.
Yes. Of these 2 items, which are, again, very similar, I prefer the run team one over the dash team one because it's a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
They're both good. I could see them both being in the game, but there were some really cool options this time around. So I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, maybe some other time.
Yeah,
it's very reasonable.
Keep submitting if you want. Though again, this dash team level 8 obvious maneuver, it feels a little cheesy,
Hey, it's my item.
Yeah.
Yay. For the record, I totally did not realize that Swapgotron made a very similar item before when I made it.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of names, Inkfingers helped me with the name, and that's kind of why I decided to submit it. Anyways. No need to actually talk about the history of my submission.
History is interesting, but again, we have two really similar items here, both of which I think would be fine in the game. I like CT5's a bit better because it has a drawback that I think matters more, and is interesting to play around. Inspirational Thinking is a strong card. Advanced Battlefield Training is a fun one.
Yeah.
Honestly, one reason I moved away from this pair of skills was that with the Citadel expansion being all major token items, and with the item I put in last month being 2 major
That's
tokens, right. I was thinking, like, where's the love for the minor tokens? And you'll see as we get into the into like the top 5 submissions, there are a number that have major token costs, and which I'm not including basically for that reason. They're all very good designs and should be submitted again.
Okay.
But I wanted to shake things up a little bit. Oh, and here's the most powerful human skill submitted. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the forum threads where it's like, humans need their equivalent of Raging Battle or Cautious Mobility. Okay, this is sort of that.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. I guess it wouldn't be a problem to include it. It's not a horribly designed item. It doesn't have a particularly inspiring name. Parry is so strong.
Yeah.
Run team is good. Obvious maneuver is
free.
Yeah. I think one reason that an item like this isn't already in the game is like obvious maneuver is really bad in single player. I remember when we were doing the human skill revamp, John was like, let's avoid obvious maneuver, because he was paying a lot of attention to new players in the campaign.
Yeah.
And this is a fine item to have in the game. I considered it for a while. But I'm not sure it's the item here. There's some items that are really, really cool coming up, and I'm just including this to say, like, this item is okay. I'm not against it. You can submit it again. It's definitely that tokenless boost for humans that people are talking about, and I'm listening. So I'm considering it, even though it doesn't tickle my fancy.
I still think these guys haven't tried out Novice Guidance, the one with Jump Soldier and Vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
As people said, it's like cheating. It gets people to 1800.
Yeah.
So.
And that has an attack soldier on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet they'd like it better if it were obvious maneuver, vulnerable jumps.
No question, no doubt about it.
I mean, yeah, Jump Soldier is sweet, but we can do a whole treatise on human skills another time. Baseline is this is okay.
All right.
And here's a cool boots that I was considering. And is the 3-stage rocket boots next? Yeah. All right. So these two items are both like very tight. 3 cards of a type. Here we've got the 3 cantrip moves. Here we've got the 3 charges. Both major token, which ultimately worked against them for my personal criterion this time around. But I like to see both in the game, so please submit them again. This is a really cool boot. Getting a lot of cantrip is really strong. We're worried about having too many cantrip effects in the game.
Okay.
But Quick Step is only good situationally.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's an overpriced shuffle. Quick Run is a bomb. Fight Move is okay. I think this item is reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, reasonable.
And
definitely.
I'd like to have 1 or 3. And then the rocket boots are really cool.
Another resubmission and a good one.
Yeah. Submit it again because I want to pick it at some point. Yeah. I don't know if you. I've liked this both times I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think one time we were hanging out with Inkfingers and he was squeeing about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's a popular item.
It's fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
And so we're at the top 5 now. If you
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys did not notice that little number.
Yeah, so we're counting down to the top 5. The rocket boots I'm having at 5. Here are Vikaza's Sunrunner's buskins, which for some reason appeal to me aesthetically. I had a hard time explaining this to CT5 earlier, but
Still having trouble.
there's something beautiful about this item. The colors.
Clearly, it's just pandering to the audience, right? Healing Dash, you are notorious for vamps.
Yeah.
And recently, you've been using Enchanted Harness as well.
Oh boy.
In some
You're
builds.
Right. Well,
so
no one knows that.
now they do. /
Yeah.
the 3, 4, 5 people we've played against
Yeah.
maybe remember.
I do like this for vampires. I don't think it's a problem to have 2 healing dashes for a major token.
Okay.
Vampires often have a major token to spend, but I think, having a sink for that major token is good.
Okay.
And Enchanted Hardness is okay. I mean, maybe it doesn't do a whole lot for vampires. I always liked running the Angel Mail.
The Angel Strapping.
Angel Strapping, yep.
Yeah.
Which had an Enchanted Harness and a Hardy Mail, and 2 Enchanted Harnesses work pretty well together. Anyway, I just think this is really cool. I would like to see more Healing Dash in the game in general. So whether it's this item or another, I saw in the smithy someone was talking about an item that had 3 Healing Dashes as minor token because Healing Dash is silver minus.
Oh, that's funny.
That's not what we're looking for. But yeah, it's a really cool card. I'd like to see more of it, especially at a major token cost. But again, not looking to print a major token boot in this month's Aloyzo's Arsenal. So moving along, we have a really cool elf skill.
Indeed. I play this card.
Yeah, it's got a lot of card advantage.
Yeah. I think I've started to become a bigger fan of Escaping Run after seeing people use it more.
It's definitely not a bad card.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as too much escaping run,
Okay.
but one escaping run is not too much escaping run.
Especially if you might just get it for free off Elven Maneuvers.
Right.
That works pretty well together.
Elven Trickery in,
Yeah.
escaping run out.
It's nice.
It's a nice package.
It's nice.
It's a blue token. It's a fair blue token. I think you'll be one of the stronger elf skills at a blue token, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, elf warriors are a bit strong with cautious mobility. This doesn't really challenge that. It gives some more options to other elves without pushing elf warriors too much.
Mm-hmm.
At least not the ones that are using cautious mobility. So I think it's a really cool item.
Yeah.
And good flavor.
Yeah.
Number 2, we've got the Nobleman's Puddle Dodgers.
Again, another name, flavor, fun.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite names that I've seen in the 2 months. The Nobleman's part is just like, yep.
It's so perfect.
It's perfect. Leap is not a very strong card, which makes these cool. Hover doesn't really belong on boots. Worth noting. Hover doesn't usually belong on boots. I would make an exception for these because they're really cool, and having one doesn't seem bad.
Yeah.
John also really liked these. And I love Flight Aura.
You do.
That's a known fact.
You do.
I really love Flight Aura. So these tickled my fancy, and if I could pick 2 items, these would be one of them. But I think
But since you can only pick one.
Since I can only pick one. Since Aloyzo can only craft one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't about me. This is about Aloyzo.
Yeah.
I recommended that he craft the fashionable ball and chain.
Oh my. It's great.
It's a ball and chain.
Yeah, it really
Sometimes
is.
it trips you. Sometimes you hit someone with it. I mean, even the lunging bash artwork fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And violent spin. Yep.
Fashionable.
Sure. Yeah. This is a really, really cool item.
You have to show it off.
Yeah, it's a great name. It's a great flavor concept.
Yeah.
it's a strong item, but not too strong. I mean, like, Trip is sometimes really bad.
Trip? Well, yeah.
At the same time, sometimes it's a free cycle.
Yeah.
And Lunging Bash and Violent Spin are very good.
Yeah.
So this is really cool.
Yeah, this is very interesting for deck building, who you want to put it on.
Yeah, I think that Red really knocked this one out of the park. There were a lot of strong submissions this time around. This ended up being my favorite. Not necessarily by a huge margin. Again, the puddle dodgers are awesome,
Yeah.
and I honestly really like that archery skill, but these take it away, in my opinion. And so in mid-September, when I release Mauve Manticore 9,
Okay.
Red's Fashionable Ball and Chain will be added to the Aloyzo's Arsenal set,
Very cool.
and it will be in the game.
A new pair of epic boots.
A new pair of epic boots that you can loot at level 10 or level 8 to 12 dungeons, right?
7 to 13?
7 to 13?
Something.
Something.
You guys will find it.
Yeah.
It'll show up in randomizers.
Go kill, is Melvillus 10? No, cockroaches are 10.
Cockroaches.
Yeah. Kill cockroaches, get a ball and chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope that this item excites some of your deck building demons, and
Yeah.
I look forward to it being in the game, and I look forward to sharing it with everyone else.
Awesome.
So, thanks for watching. I hope that the criticism of the items that weren't on the shortlist was helpful. Seems the last video was helpful despite being a pretty bad video. So that was cool. Glad to do it again. Hope it is helpful, and I hope that everyone whose item was in the shortlist, I hope that you're feeling good about yourselves,
Yeah,
because your
keep
items
up the
were
good
awesome. And keep it up. Resubmit the items that I asked you to resubmit, or submit something new next time if you have a better idea. And yeah.
Yeah. Have fun designing stuff, right?
Yeah,
That's
have
what it's
fun.
all about.
Yeah. And use that Smithy thread, because there's some cool stuff in there, and yeah, you can have fun. So I will see you all in Card Huntria, and again, this item will be in the game in about half a month.
And then we'll be back in, what, another month?
Yep.
For another one of these?
Yep.
All right.
And Aloyzo's Arsenal number 3 will open around the time that this item is added to the game.
Okay.
So, expected in maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching. Thanks for submitting your items. And have a great day, everyone watching this.
Looking forward to more.
Yep. All right. Take care, Card Huntria.